Hey everyone, welcome to yet another edition of the Quad Damage Podcast. I'm High Function Medium, joined by Deadforge.
What's up?
Another esteemed gentleman, HyperVerse.
Hello.
And our very special guest, El Mugu. And today we're just going to be looking at his World War II Eldritch Horror theme shooter, Cult. And so we got Deadforge on stick, taking us through it. We'll be watching, just basically making a discussion about what we see, the little guided playthrough action as we do on here, as we combine that with the regular podcast format. So yeah, I guess the best way to get started is just to turn it over to Deadforge.
All right. Are you guys ready? All right, everybody. All together. Let's do it. Let's get moving. Yeah, there we go.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I was waiting for that.
Cool.
All right.
Nice. Yeah, first question, medium. Let's. Oh wait, any industry updates? You want to do that?
I didn't see a whole lot.
I didn't see anything. Nothing.
I haven't seen a whole lot going on either. Other than if you want to talk about Bears in Space being out, I mean that's a relatively new release. Other than that, it's not a whole lot going on. But
Cool.
You got a Saber that actually went on independent, I think, right?
The
There's
what?
a few others. Yeah.
Did they?
who was it?
So Embracer, right? They both Saber, Three Realms,
Saber
a few others.
Interactive.
I think a lot
Yeah.
of those they are going independent.
Yeah.
They are going
Yeah,
I
Saber
said
went
that's
independent.
nice.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I said this a few days ago. I said that all these layoffs, all they're doing is creating the competition for Embracer tomorrow, because everyone's going to go independent. Is that all you're doing is shooting yourself in the foot, right?
I mean, it's all fucking bullshit, right? Like, let's be honest. That's why
It is. Yeah. The problem is when you're cutting out all of the people that are essentially creating your game for you, and you're starving the industry and creating your own competition. You look at the salaries of these CEOs. They could pay for those salaries for 3 years, but they're always like, "Oh, we need to cut costs. We're sorry for the loss and stuff." You're not sorry for the loss. If you were sorry for the loss, you give your bonus to keep those people in a job. All they care about is themselves. But yeah, embrace it.
as far as I know, there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So do you have a solution? Do you have a solution to this? I can't swap back to the starting pistol. It won't let me go back to it.
If you press 1, you cannot do that.
No, I'm pressing it and it won't do it.
Ooh, I mean that sounds like a bug actually, and I never
check
seen
your,
it. But
key bindings. Make sure you didn't accidentally click something else, maybe. Like reset it by accident.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I can take notes and then try to use it.
No, it's right there.
Seems like they're doing it right. Yeah.
Just reset it. I just set it that way again, see if that works.
You know, we've been having some issues with like key binding, so I wouldn't be surprised if something's fucked up. Meanwhile, going back to that Embracer
Yeah,
stuff,
no,
I don't think they have like a long-term plan. I mean, they probably have. It's just that they were just trying to sell the company, and because that didn't work out, they are right now like just cutting costs, and they don't give a fuck. Like there's no plan of like, oh, what could be the best for making the best game. They are just like trying to get along another year. Like I think the industry as a whole is getting. There's a lot of that. I have a few friends that went to GDC past week, or the other one, I don't remember, and everyone told me the same. It's like everyone's just saying, okay, let's hope and try to get through 2023, 2024, and get to 25. That's the plan. So I wouldn't be surprised if.
What do you think the long term effect? How do you think the industry is going to look in 5 years?
Well, that's that, I guess.
Do you remember Terminator 2 when the machine? I don't know.
Oh no! Wait! You know, in the first Terminator, when Carlos is in the car with Sarah Connor, and she says they can't make things like that yet, and he says no, not for another 40 years.
Exactly.
Guess what year it is right now? 40 years later.
True.
So we have Skynet on the way. Yeah.
Zombies.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Nasty sandwich.
We mentioned before. Yeah. Medium. Do you want to ask the first question, or do you want me to ask? Yeah.
Let's see. We're seeing such good stuff on here. How exactly did that come about?
Yeah.
What tell us a little bit about kind of where you come from, as what's your kind of journey to game development, and how the concept came about, and just lay it on us.
Yeah, man.
Sure. Right. So I started working on games like I think this year is actually going to be 10 years ago. So I've been for a while now making games for a living. And essentially I started as most people. I just played a shitload of video games through all my life. I still do it. And I'm from Argentina, so here's the thing. In Argentina, the industry is much smaller. I mean, it's growing and it's getting better, definitely, but it is much more than, say, I'm currently living in the UK, but it's like much more than that. And especially like this, if you compare to the States, like nothing like that. There's still a lot of really talented people, by the way, in case that any Argentinian hears this, like there's amazing people working there. But I was born and lived through all my life in Argentina in a city called Mar del Plata, which is like very small, tourist-like city, seaside city. It's beautiful, but it's very small in terms of like industry and everything. Like I think there was like maybe 1 or 2 companies when I started working. So I was very lucky because I ended up working on my first game development job was essentially because a few people who I was working back then, they decided to start a company. They got the funds, they got projects going on and stuff. So that's how I started essentially. And funny enough, that's actually, it's pretty much related to how I started Evil Guinea Pig, which is the studio I have with a few friends that we work on Cult, and we worked in another project before, which never made out. Essentially, the reason I created that is because my first job, I was like super excited. First job in the industry, it was the best. But that didn't end up completely well, right? Like, I mean, it was still a good job. I learned a lot of things, but like, I wouldn't say it ended up in a high note. I actually had to move back to, back then I was a gameplay programmer, so I had to move back to another job that was using Unity, which I was using, that was the technology I was using back then. But not to actually make games. I was making augmented reality experiences because, again, Mar del Plata didn't have a lot of, that's the city I was living, didn't have a lot of jobs going on. So I was lucky to actually get another one with the same technology. But I, pretty soon realized like I need to start doing something. Oh, you're getting screwed, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. Use the shield.
No, sorry. So yeah, going back to that, I pretty soon realized that like I need to be doing something creatively speaking, right, in terms of like game development, because I'm not interested in making AR experiences or anything like that. So as a job, fine, but I still want to keep learning how to make games. That's the best way to actually make better games. Just make games. It's actually quite simple and quite complex at the same time. And yeah, essentially that's when I figured out, okay, I want to make a game. What are the things I like? I always been a like huge H.P. Lovecraft nerd, so I knew I wanted to do something along those lines. I also always love RPGs. I love FPS. I mean, I love all type of games, but probably like my 2 favorite genres are RPG and FPS. And essentially, that's when I decided, okay, I'm gonna make an RPG. Stupid mistake, by the way. Let's put it that way right now. Like that was a big mistake. So I started making something like it was called The Axe. It was like a top-down action RPG, sort of like Conan meets Call of Cthulhu, which is kind of interesting because actually the author of Conan actually was friends of Lovecraft, and there's a lot of overlaps in their works anyways. But yeah, I mean, it's so fucking cool. And yeah, that's how I started Evil Guinea Pig. We worked for 4 years in that never made out. We got we like redid the game a lot of times because we were learning essentially. And we got the game to events and everything, but like, yeah, at some point we were like, okay, 4 years, this is not getting enough traction. I think like it is too complex for us. Let's make something simpler. And that's when I started working on Cult essentially, which was 2020, I think. So yeah, I think that's pretty much like how I got to work on Cult, more or less. Along the way, of course, I kept working on the industry, and I'm still am. I actually moved 2 years ago to the UK to keep working, for new opportunities or challenges or however you want to call it. And how cool? Yeah. Sorry.
So what we were talking earlier on about that it was the Great War essentially. Why World War II? Why? What inspired you to use that setting instead of setting it in the past, like the Hyborian Age or something, or even earlier during Cole's era? Why something so modern?
Yeah. So, all right. So, I mean, this was like 4 years ago, so I might be wrong on some stuff. Maybe some of my friends can actually correct me later. But so when we decided to make a shooter, the reason we choose to do that, and this led to the World War II thing, it's because we thought, oh, shooter probably easier than an RPG, and like, well, fair enough, yes, probably in a lot of ways, but at the same time, not really. When we decided to make a shooter, we were like discussing different genres, and like we were both essentially like we created like a mirror world. I don't know if you use mirror, but it's like a creative board, so you can like throw stuff and like link things and whatever. Mm-hmm. And we started like putting like settings and games we like it and different things, and try to see what was the overlap between all those things. While we were doing that, we also, because this is something we learned when we were doing our first project, we also started doing like sort of like a market analysis and saying, okay, what are the things that market doesn't have or people might be interested or something. We probably didn't do like a great job at that, because I don't think that's how we actually developed the games, but I think it was still smart to try to do that, right? Try to learn a little bit of that. And one thing we realized it pretty quickly is like we were all playing like all the boomer shooters that were coming out. And our first realization was like, there's no World War II shooters. And like, we got a lot of those, like back in the day, right? Like Call of Duty 2, 1, Medal of Honor, all those great games. Well, I mean, even Necrovision is World War II, but still, right? Like we got a lot of different games like that. And Wolfenstein. I'm not gonna mention Wolfenstein, right?
Yep, those are the two on
essentially
the top of my list. I was like, it's got to be Necrovision and Wolfenstein 2009. I was like, gotta be. I just can feel
it. And that's essentially how we decided to choose World War II. There was at that point in time we were like between World War II and 1, but we decided World War II because I guess, well, I mean, as you alluded before, like it's easier to say who was the villain of World War II, I guess. I mean, I guess you can always argue that on war, really, but yeah, I think it was easier on that side. And also we figured, okay, probably if we choose World War II, we'll have a little bit more of like a, higher tech to work with, because World War II was still pretty medieval in some aspects, right? Like it was pretty gruesome, a lot of melee combat. And we want to really go with the, fire guns and all that stuff, essentially.
What's the time frame in regards to the release of the game? Is it kind of a it's done when it's done thing, or are you working towards a deadline? Because I know you've put a lot of effort into the demo, so that tells me that potentially it's quite far off.
So I would say actually both. If that makes any sense. So we do have internal release dates that we would like to hit, but to be fair, those are not solid things that we can actually. I mean, I can tell you, but I don't think it's gonna happen. So we will really like to release this for next year. Now, is that gonna happen? I don't know. Probably not. To be fair, I wouldn't like to be quoted. I mean, I don't mind if someone says, "Oh, he's a 2025, whatever." It's the same, really. We only want to release the game whenever the game is in a good state. That's how it is.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes. Good job, you had that. Go on, you got this.
Well, they are also like buffed by the ritual, so they are even worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When they have like that green
the big ritual that's going on right now, this giant ritual, they're all buffed.
You said earlier that you're playing other boomer shooters. I don't think that this feels boomer shooter though. I think that it feels like a modern game. Maybe it's got boomer shooter sensibilities, but it's not like when you look at something like Turbo Overkill or Cultic and you're like, that is trying to look like an old game. This
I would
to me looks like a modern game. Has a really strong art style to it.
Thank you. I mean, I would agree. That's why actually I don't refer cool as a boomer shooter because
That's
I
what
don't
it's
think,
looking.
I do agree with you. I don't actually know. Is there like a Wikipedia definition of this that I should be like aligning myself to or something?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, Steam only recognized the term boomer shooter a short while ago, which I guess makes it official. So I guess in terms of an actual term, to me, a boomer shooter is a game that is made in the modern age, but one that tries to look older than what it is. Not only visually, but in terms of its gameplay as well, its game mechanics. But to me, when I look at this, I think that this looks like a modern game. You could tell me that 20 people made this game, I'd have believed you.
Yeah, it's got a lot
Yeah, I
of
think it looks pretty
seventh-gen
good.
energy
Very
to it.
modern looking.
Yeah.
Very like an Xbox 360 kind of game. I like it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my
Wait.
kind of came.
I feel like that's Was that an intentional design choice to have it kind of like look like that, or is that just a development constraint based on the small team?
Both, I guess. But yeah, it's first like primarily it's intentional.
Oh,
so
shit.
Same as World War II. We essentially, when we were like looking at games, the first thing we noticed that most of the boomer shooters out there are either inspired by Doom 1 or 2 or Quake 1, right? Like that's pretty much the most of them. And I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, I love them as they are. It's just that we were like, okay, let's try our hand at something different, right? And that's how we came to it, actually. So my favorite shooter is probably Half-Life 2. Yeah. So yeah,
literally on the last podcast, I said the Half-Life. The Half-Life.
We have to talk about that, Robert.
So you were saying.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, I mean that's why we choose. Like we choose because intention. We said, okay, let's try to make something different, right? That was the intention all along. Let's put ourselves in a spot because it's also hard to try to make something interesting if you are just following the same stuff of the most of the other things that are coming out. That's why we decided this. Actually, something interesting is that that's probably because you changed it. We need to work on that. Sorry, got distracted.
What is it? What is it? What does it call your eye? The brightness or what?
Yeah, like it looks very different, and we haven't worked a lot on the settings yet. Like if you
it was just because it was kind of like struggling when I was doing the platforming, so I bumped the lighting down to medium. And something I was telling them prior is that when you drop it below high, it gets very the contrast gets really high. So
we really need to work on that. Sorry, so going back to what was I saying? Actually, sorry, it's 10 p.m. here.
It's all good.
Like,
all
I
good,
actually
sorry.
had a coffee.
You were saying how good high contrast looks and to keep it, right?
Yeah. So we were talking why it's more like a 2000 structure. So essentially wanted to make something different. I'm a huge Half-Life fan, but the funny thing is that at the very beginning of the development, we were like, imagine the first 6 months or something like that. I actually wanted the game to look like literally tried to copy Return to Castle Wolfenstein graphically, like visually, and then add some new things like new lining rendering, new like the textures. So you see that some of the textures, like depending on the lining they react, that's called PBR, which stands for physical based rendering. I wanted to sort of like say, okay, let's grab this old thing that looks amazing still, and it's very unique, and there's no other indie shooter trying to do that. Let's try to make it new. But then we had some discussions because the 3D artist was like, I want something more challenging than that. And I was like, well, we went like discussing it, but in the end I was like, well, you're doing this, so in the end, it's your challenge as well. So that's how we went. And actually the point that we agreed is that we are trying to sort of emulate ID Tech 4, so Doom 3, Quake 4, Prey. That's the sort of aesthetic we are trying to copy a little bit.
Prey I can see, I can definitely see Prey.
I fucking love Prey.
Come into me.
Yeah.
And those chunky textures to it.
Yeah.
It always-
Also lighting, like we're trying like the very obscure, like very strong shadows, right? Like, a lot of
the
contrast.
stencil shadows, is that what they used to call them? Those real thick.
Yeah, I think
like
so.
comic book shadows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick question, not mean to interrupt you too much, but where do I do right here? Because I killed all of the people.
So for that you need to use the override. So the first weapon, the one that you couldn't switch to, and you need to like interact with that.
It's an issue because even if I use the weapon wheel, I can't get to it. So like even if I scroll with my mouse, I can't get to it. So that's not good.
Really weird. I want. To be fair, I don't know what's going on. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So what happens if you go to main menu and load again the save?
We'll try it.
So if it doesn't load,
yep, it's still that way.
Yeah, it's definitely fucked up.
Oh, it must be. So it must be the save then. I guess I'll just start it over. It's all good.
I'm gonna take
bringing Limbo of the Elder Ones. I love that. Yeah, I'll just start it over. It's okay.
I love that the demo updates have their own subtitle to it. It's as if it's a chapter in a book or something. When I first played this, when the demo came out, like most people found it through Realms Deep. And it was, I don't know what you guys do, but whenever I watch Realms Deep, I'll literally make a list of all the trailers that I like, and then I'll keep an eye out for those games when they wishlist them and keep an eye out for them. This reminded me a lot of, and upon reflection, it's nothing like it. It reminded me of a 1983 Michael Mann movie called The Keep. Whereas a lot of people have not heard of it, but it has a kind of eldritch horror World War II sort of vibe.
Really?
And it's set in the Carpathian Mountains. It as a film story, it's very mythological is the wrong word. It was ignored and butchered, and it's hard to find. But yeah, it's got like loads of big stars in it, like Ian McKellen and stuff.
Dude, this looks amazing. Actually, I'm
Glenn,
watching.
I think is one of the guys.
Scott Glenn is he's in it as well.
So
Gabriel Byrne was the villain. Jürgen Prochnow as well. He was in it, and I watched it growing up. And when you watch a film when you're younger, and you see it when you're older, you feel like you're young again. It brings back that same feeling of either fear or excitement. Yeah. I got that same feeling when I played the demo for this. It made me feel like I was a 5-year-old kid watching this film again, and that kind of ethereal horror that I felt watching it. I don't know what it is about horror and World War II, but they really do go together. I saw that before. Reload,
yeah. That brings me to the thing. The Reload magazines. That sound like it sounds like the Counter-Strike Reload sound when it says it.
It might be that.
Sounds very similar, yeah.
Is it just an Easter egg for Reload, or does it actually perform a function in the final game or something?
No,
is it just a hidden secret?
It's just an Easter egg. Actually, I would like to add so much more Easter eggs and like secrets because it's something we probably didn't. We haven't done a lot of that. They're just 2 Easter eggs. They are. Also, by the way, the reason I would like to explore Easter eggs and secrets is because the game is pretty dark and like, I guess, I don't know if serious is the way to describe it, but yeah, it's quite solemn. I don't know. It's, it doesn't have some of the more perhaps.
It's not just tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So that's why I also, for example, one thing I really like about Blood, which I do think it does have a lot of humor, like dark humor in it, but is that a lot of the secrets are very funny actually. Like I don't know, when you see the Eye of the Shining and all of those things, I would really like to try that just because of that, because it's like a really nice place to actually not change the tone of the game but still add some of that value in it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I screwed up when I played it and I fell down there. I was like, crap, I'm broken. I thought I'd fallen through the game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it'd be nice if we saw a quad damage logo hidden somewhere in this game, but it'd be nice if we saw a quad damage logo.
It would be cool, yeah.
We can talk about that later and do it.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Right before the final boss fight or something.
Oh
yeah.
Right after the fight,
You mentioned that the audio in this demo that you've reworked the entire audio on it. Do you want to talk about some aspects of that?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, we literally remade like 95% of everything that was in there, and then we did we worked on everything that was left to do to sort of cover content-wise what's in the demo, which is probably like double the work that was done before. So it was essentially like 6 months of audio work, literally.
Yeah.
6 months of so we work on like 3 times. So when I say 6 months, like 6 months for us, maybe for like a studio that actually works on this, like we'll work on this 8 hours a day, probably different times. But for us was a lot of time. We actually sort of like create a new audio team inside our team actually, because none of us is actually like audio designer or anything like that. So yeah, it was a lot of work. And actually it's really interesting because I mean, I've been working on games for a while, but because I probably never had to work so directly with audio, I do feel like I learned a lot of lessons from like these past months, 6 months, in the sort of like the importance, and also how, you know, when you're designing mechanics or you're coding it, it's the same. You sort of like start, you learn as you go, right? When you're implementing them, and a lot of the times, what you had in mind actually takes a lot of time, because either maybe you I don't know, you work on for a month on something, and it just works right for you, like it's okay. But when you give it to other people, they don't get it, and it's because usually it's feedback, like it's just feedback. And audio is a big part of that. I will even say, like, whenever you're doing a new mechanic or like any new piece of content or whatever, like audio is like maybe 30% of that. Like, so sometimes even more. It really depends. Like, for example, for horror, it's like probably much higher than 30%.
Audio design is literally half the experience when it comes to horror, because it's what you can't see but you can hear and stuff like that really creates the atmosphere.
And it's really interesting how it affects the whole experience, how it changes your perception of things. And actually, one thing that's going to be really cool is that while we were working on this update, we were also working on the second level of the game, for the full game, right?
Yeah.
And that one already has like a lot of things that we started designing from the ground up with audio in mind already. Like, when I mean with audio is that we talk with the audio team and like, okay, how do we want to do this? Like, should this be bigger or smaller? How we should present this? Because again, like a lot of the times, and this happens in development a lot, where you're just doing things and then audio gets added to the end. But like a lot of the times, audio is actually communicating you maybe half of the experience. So if you sort of like work on that before actually, getting all the other stuff done, you do get much more bang for the buck, in my opinion. Like, you can get so much more value from it. So yeah, it's been a really interesting learning process, and I mean, we still have a lot of things that we want to achieve audio-wise that are not here, but it's getting along. And for me, the most important thing of adding all this out is that what I gather from like reading comments from people, like seeing the few playthroughs I've seen so far since we released it past week, is that it sort of starts to close the experience for people, because before, maybe visually it was already as it is right now, and people like that, but because the audio was so behind, it felt like a disconnected experience. Like, there was stuff that wasn't there yet. And yeah, essentially that.
Yeah, just to speak to that real quick, I know that new Alone in the Dark game that just came out, the one that's like done, it's like, in my opinion, pretty decent for what it is. One of the main problems with the way that game feels is the audio delay. Every first attack happens like a full second or two after it, and it's persistent the entire way, and it just like really disconnects you from what's going on, unless you just kind of I heard it in my head, in my heart. You have to kind of like do half the work for the game. It's like, man, that is a rough place to be in for a horror game.
How was audio created for a game like this? Obviously you have voiceover artists that will record voiceover for it, but how do you get like the gun sounds? Are they combinations of different types of gun to give it its own identity, or how do you create an ethereal monster voice?
I mean, to be fair, that's more of a question for the audio guys, but I can speak a little bit about it. So I mean, the answer is yes to what you just said. So there is like a lot of like mixing different things. It takes a lot of time, so it's a lot of iteration. Like, say, for example, this or pistol, which is the Overs, which is actually an M1 Garand sawed off version, right? Like it's cut. It has this artifact. yeah. I mean, it's exactly that. So as you see, like it has like this weird artifact, right? When we released it update 7, we sort of made a cinematic to explain, like, give a little background of why it is, why it looks how it looks, why it works the way it works. Well, sort of like not every detail, but you get it. It was an interesting challenge, for example, because you can just go and find like our libraries for M1 Garands that they sound perfectly realistic. For example, they are accurate, right? But when you're making games, you don't really think about
chill.
It's too late. I dropped right into them.
You don't want accuracy. You want to actually communicate and build up an experience, a feeling most of the time. So you end up like, maybe you start from there, but maybe you change it completely. Like it doesn't actually sound like an M1 Garand maybe at the end sometimes. But in this case, it was even harder because you need to sort of like make it M1 Garand, but it also needs to feel like like an M1 Garand with like a sort of like an Eldritch artifact in it. So what the fuck does that sound like? It's a great question, right? We started iterating a lot, like I don't know, like voices, like I don't even remember now, but like I think even like we added like voices to it. We added like different sound of like materials hitting itself, different tempo, different a lot of things. It is a lot of iteration. It like I'm gonna give a huge shout out to the audio team, but in general I will say out in games, it doesn't get enough like shout out from other people. Like it's such a underrated stuff. Like of course when something is good you notice, but like the amount of work they do, the amount of talent they have to sort of, especially with like fantastical things that they need to like communicate with something, like say when you play, I don't know, like I'm gonna give you a good example, Resident Evil 4 remake. When you play it, the part where you're like in the town, there's so much stuff happening in the background audio wise, but like none of that is actually happening gameplay wise, but it puts you there, right? All of that sort of things, that takes a shitload of time to make. It's really hard, and it really takes a lot of iteration. That's what I'm saying, essentially.
Yeah, when you're creating a world, and certainly with games like this of the horror and science fiction fantasy genre, a lot of the sounds that you create don't exist within the real world. You're literally making it up as you go along, and you're creating. If there's a monster in a closet, you have to think to yourself, what does that monster sound like? And it's not just a screeching sound. You got to think about its physiology. How does it sound if it has a large head?
I feel like audio and visual design in games in general probably doesn't get that much love. Like, there's such large parts of what makes a game great, aside from its gameplay and stuff. But for some reason, a lot of times the audio and visual design, the art style, just the small little things they just don't get that much credit. I don't know what it is. It's just people don't pay attention to the small details a lot of times. They just pay attention to like what's directly in front of them. Sometimes people don't even notice the game has music and stuff like that. So,
well, if it's Doom 3, yeah, I can understand.
That's not a slight at you, Medium, about the whole.
You play a game on silent.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a funny thing to mention about that.
Go for it.
Sorry.
Medium, you were saying?
No, I was saying go for it. Yeah, let us know what you were pointing out.
Sorry. I made a funny exercise. I think it was past year. Well, as I said, I love Half-Life 2, right? And a lot of the feeling of the combat I wanted to sort of copy was Half-Life 2. I really like Half-Life 2 combat, how it feels. I like the feeling between like moving through space and then suddenly fighting, and because everything feels like the weapons, they are not over the top. I will even say probably our weapons are a little bit more over the top in their design than Half-Life 2. But they do really feel like they pack a punch, right? And there's a lot of things for that. I actually, like, this was my research, right? I was trying to figure out, okay, why Half-Life 2 feels like it feels in terms of combat. And at some point, I was also like looking at combat in general as the experience, like the gameplay experience, like for example, AI, what they do, what they don't do, how they do it, and so and such. And at some point, I was trying to figure out some stuff, and I just removed all the sound of the game, and I played Half-Life 2, like combat. And guess what? it's not that good. That was an interesting learning because I didn't knew like this was new for me. I never tried to replicate an entire combat experience, right? And of course, I mean, it was still fun. Don't take me wrong, but like a lot of that was the audio actually. So there's this thing that a lot of games have, which is called the bark system, as dogs barking, which is essentially the AI telling you what they are gonna do. Like say I'm moving forward, they have like a bark sound for that, and for other things like I'm gonna shoot, someone died, and so on. That has such a big impact. Oh fuck, that has such a that has such a big impact on like what's happening, and it's really hard to pull apart. Like if you want to say, it's really hard to pick that apart and say, oh, this is like measure how important that is to the whole experience. That's my point. And a lot of audio is actually like that, where like it's really hard to pick up apart and say, yeah, this is the thing that is actually adding a lot. So that's why it takes a lot of time to do, because you do have to iterate a lot. But
the
yeah,
ragdoll effect.
No, you're good.
The ragdoll effect reminds me of it. Yeah.
I was about to say, out of all the games that have great sound that kind of make the experience, Half-Life 2 is absolutely one of them. Those little pickup sounds you get, and the glunk, 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 you know, you're on the
wall. When you're powering up on the wall, and it goes.
Like, the biggest thing for me, like as far as from a like comparison perspective, the gore and the like kind of ragdoll of things reminds me a lot of Painkiller, kind of.
Oh well, there's a bit of that.
Not as exaggerated, obviously, but
I think it's glorious. Reminds me a lot of the blood in BioShock when it would just just splotch everywhere.
Splat everywhere.
Kind of haunted house blood.
Was
this project?
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you carry on. That's it.
Particularly, just want to say one thing. Particularly with Half-Life 2, I have these like you know when you play a game and like, I mean, I played Half-Life 2 near release, I think, so in the same year or the year after, and I was quite young, right? Like, and I still remember the time when I think it's when you leave Ravenholm that you grab the bag and you go through like the near the beaches and the dunes and all that stuff and like the sort of ghost towns. Mm-hmm. The audio design of that, it's still ingrained in my brain. Like it's still there, it lives there, it's gonna be probably living there until I die. And it's such a great thing, right? Like they managed to create something that, in my case at least, it feels like a memory, like something I actually was there. I lived that moment. And yeah, it's a really interesting thing. And to be fair, that's completely, I think if you sort of like as a developer you say, oh, I want to craft that, if you ask me, I don't know how you do that. Like, it's really hard.
I mentioned, I don't know who was too.
The dreaded
I was saying about the video games and movies as well. A good example that you've watched something great when it feels like you were a part of it rather than someone just watching it or playing it. Yeah. And Half-Life 2 is one of those games. As I joke that I don't like it and that I think that it's overrated, but that's only because I like my games a little faster paced. So I'm not saying that it's a bad game in any way. I'm just saying it's not my type of game. But by the time I'd finished Half-Life 2, I felt like I'd gone on the journey with Gordon Freeman. I felt like I'd lived that experience. And that's how you know where you've played something great, because it feels like you were transported to that world. You were taken on a journey and an adventure. And you're going to make it out of this? Yes, you got this. And that was the great thing, that I loved about Half-Life 2. And it's one of those games that once I started it, I couldn't stop it until it was over.
You can even shoot at them and open them if you want.
Oh, look at that. Also, I think I missed it somewhere, but can you throw grenades?
There's no grenades so far in the game.
I just see that they're highlighted or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, so that's every enemy has like a pickup they drop. It's like a smaller version of like more powerful pickups. And the generals, with the one that have like the green projectile, they throw like a small pickup that gives you some energy back.
Oh, okay.
Which now that you say it might be confusing.
I was thinking that it was glowing because it was like a pickup, but I see that it's energy. Yeah, I noticed that now. But it looked like a grenade on their hip is what I was thinking it was. And I was like, did I miss the fact that I could throw grenades? Because I don't remember that being tutorialized. So okay,
No,
yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes
you're
sense.
completely
But
right, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
Are there any plans to be able to pick up the enemy weapons once you've killed them, or are you looking to expand the current roster of weapons and that's what your character uses?
Well, so yeah, we plan to actually expand the arsenal. So I guess I can sort of like use these and sort of like draw a parallelism with how long we want the game to make it to be. Sorry,
this one happens
so-
every time right here. Sorry to interrupt you, but he always clips through the door every time, just like this.
Yeah, that's a tough problem to actually solve. Actually, from a technical side of things, we want to do something about that. We want the enemies to be able to open doors.
That would make it very scary because usually in a horror game, once you close the door, you've put that barrier between you and them. But if they just open it back up, then it's the chase is still on.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, and sorry, I will like go back to what you asked in just a minute. But I was playing Industria, like I think it was like a month or half a week. I don't remember how long, but like a few weeks, something like that. I really liked it. But there's this thing where like you can get to places where like the enemies cannot get near you, so they essentially stop trying to kill you and they like go and wander around. And there's this concept, I don't know if if you know it, it's called suspension of disbelief, which is essentially when you're like either consuming any sort of media or like having any sort of experience, and there's something that disconnects you from that, like you're immersed and then suddenly something, it might be conscious or not, it disconnects you from there, gets you out. So when you're making games, that's the last thing you want to happen, right? Because it completely, all the hard work you've been trying to build an experience, it completely destroys it. Like doors are like that, right? Or like in this industrial example, like just getting in that specific spot of the level breaks the immersion. Those are tough ones.
Yeah, it's like playing this and then suddenly Tina Turner appears in it or something. It takes you right out of the game.
She's an Easter egg.
I just love that there's like the zombies are such a big thing. I love how you can get through right here. You can't shoot them yet, but you can see that they're about to jump you. But I just love there's Nazi zombies in it. It's like it's such an odd staple, but it's like having zombies to some degree in any first-person shooter is like a staple ever since Doom, I guess. Because they all have them to some degree or another. It's like zombies or mutants. You know what I mean? Like Half-Life has them. You name
Zombie Army
shooter, they have them.
Have you ever played any of them?
Which one? Sorry.
The Zombie Army games.
I have not played those. I know they're made by Rebellion, Sniper Elite.
Yeah, they're amazing games. Amazing. Yeah.
They're
Sorry, Mugu, you were saying something just then.
Oh, so yeah, before I go back to weapons, because Deadforge said something actually quite interesting in my opinion. So zombies, 100%. I mean, love zombie movies. I love zombie stuff in general.
Huge zombie guy, yeah.
And what's a really interesting challenge in games? Like, because zombies are like a very, very like common denominator thing that you get in games. How to actually make interesting zombies is a very complex thing, right? Like, I mean, you get games like, I don't know, like Dying Light or Dead Island. I mean, their whole game is pretty much about that, so they can sort of focus and make their experience amazing. But when you're making a game that it's not like that, it's actually quite hard. I think a game that actually does this really well is Last of Us, in the sense that you can like lore-wise, they are not zombies, right? But they are zombies.
Technically.
But still, Last of Us zombies
not zombies,
don't feel like regular zombies. They have like their sound, their visual design. They are actually really well blended in the story. They have a why they are there, why they look like that, why they sound like that, all of that. And I think that's amazing. It's really hard to pull off. The reason I'm saying this is because we did start with the zombies, because same reason you said that first. Like, FPS game needs zombies. Let's make zombies. Just start like
you do, yeah.
Yeah, so first two enemies, a ranged enemy and a zombie. Done. But it's actually quite recently. Yeah, it doesn't fail, right? Exactly. Just recently, like 6 months ago, we actually came up with why there's Nazi zombies in our game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, we are working on that. Yeah. I mean, I would say that's one thing that we really want to. I don't know if like I don't know how to put this. Also, sorry, because English is not my main language, so I might be mumbling or like sometimes I cannot put the words I want. Yeah,
it's so good.
but one of the things I would really like horror games to, be known for, like people actually, find a way to create something that people appreciate, is actually that there's actually explanations for most things, and when you know about this, it actually makes the experience better. I think I was playing your podcast, Deadforge, that you interviewed Jared.
Yeah,
and he, at some point he's talking about like, oh, why in Bloodborne these statue is one way or different than the other, and that actually has all of that. I'm a big fan of that as well, because I do feel, I mean, for two reasons. I think that it adds like another like extra layer of depth to a player, that if they find it, it can add value. Not for everyone, of course, but if you're that type of person, it adds more value. But I also think that from a creator standpoint, it can really help.
It's actually the opposite way I went this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's like 2 paths on the level. It's a really interesting tool, because you are not just doing, oh, I need to do a zombie because I need zombies, like FPS games have zombies, but actually if you have
I like that.
Killed him.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Someone's gonna complain about me doing that into the mic, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like it can also be sort of a subliminal thing that you actually reinforce a logic that people may not realize that they're internalizing. They may never be able to tell you a single thing about it, but they've probably in some way reacted to it. And like, it's kind of like the actors that know their backstories for characters that you'll never see on screen.
Oh shit!
Like it shows up subliminally in their performance or something like that.
This must be the Indiana Jones part of the level, because Jesus.
Oh, I'm a big fan of traps in games. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that. I 100% to what you said, Medium. Sorry, Rob, go on.
I was going to say we've spoken a lot about future plans in regards to this or something. You've mentioned that you're working on the second level of the game. So what sort of things can we, without going into spoiler territory, what sort of things can people expect with the second level of it as an extension of what they're seeing in this demo?
Okay, so this is actually an interesting one, because while we released the demo and we kept working on it, which was like, I think it's going to be like 1.5 years in about some months or something like that, like a fucking long time. We were learning what we want the game to be. I mean, this might sound stupid, but it really isn't. Like, it does, I think it really takes unless you're trying to copy something, it does really take a shitload of time to understand, well, what do you want the game to be. And sometimes even I think there's a need for some external validation for that. And with this I mean actually putting something out and hearing people, and then even if you had an idea what you wanted, to sort of like use that to sort of say, okay, this is what I wanted to do, people didn't got it, but based on what this different group of people said, this is probably like a good idea on how to achieve that, right? Like you learn how to communicate that, how to make sure that idea, whatever. So that being said, my fucking long explanation about what the second level is. The second level, I mean, lore-wise, it's pretty much this. Like, it's all about the same, right? Like, it's just like maturing and explaining more and making the world more interesting. But experience-wise, I think with this level, there's too much combat, in my opinion. I don't know how people will like that or not. It's something we need to try and see. But I would like the game to have more exploration, a little bit more puzzles. Again, it's not that it's not gonna have combat. It's gonna have a shitload of combat. It's a boomer shooter. Well, it's a retro FPS. Sorry, I'm not gonna say boomer shooter, so people don't get mad. But yeah.
What happened? I looked away for a second.
I got crushed. Didn't notice it till the last second. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, like try to find a better balance for that. And I think one of the things I want to do, this is again being a huge Half-Life fan, is try to mature more the world and the level, so you actually feel like you're there. Like, and that can mean a lot of things, like interactions, puzzles, more story. Also, one thing I don't like about this level is that most of the story already happened when you get there. It's like you're getting the crumbles from the story, right? In the small things, because it's not like there's like characters talking to you or anything, but like the few bits that there are, it's just like you're getting those crumbles and consuming them.
Text logs.
Yeah, exactly. And I love those, but I don't want that to be just the only thing.
Shit.
It's very Indiana Jones. Yeah,
People fucking
That's
hate
what I
this.
said earlier. Yeah, it's like
I love it. Like people were like, remove this from here. Like fucking hell no, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna make it harder. No, I didn't make it harder. I think
Just
I made
the
it.
filter right there.
Yeah, it's I was channeling my.
I mean, I should have
inner-
went the other way.
yeah.
I was just trying. Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say that you're talking about the storyline. Have you mapped out? Obviously, you've mapped out the storyline for this, and that's how you're creating the narrative as you go along. But is there a bigger world around that storyline that perhaps you would expand into if the game was successful enough to warrant you expanding the universe? Have you thought about that yet, or are you concentrating on this is what the story for this is, and this is what we're going to make?
So the answer is yes. We thought about actually. I don't know if you have seen it, but like for the 7th update, we released. It's called The Key, and we released a cinematic explaining where Lazar, which is the main character of Cult, got like this eldritch artifact that he has on his weapon. So yeah, we like it's essentially like pirates, right? That's the answer. The answer is pirates because pirates are fucking cool. But
Fair enough.
Yeah,
it's a good reasoning for me.
yeah, I mean that's pretty much how we do things. Like, is this cool? Yeah, okay, let's do it. But yeah, I mean, it will. For example, I would love to make a cool game about pirates, with or without Lazar. I mean, just because I like pirates. But yeah, we really want to. For me, one of my personal challenges is to build an interesting enough world that even if you don't put all your ideas in there, people are and try to see if you can sort of.
I made myself go boom.
I agree with what you said then. The example I was thinking of was Dune, and that it has a storyline that you follow, but it's clearly there is a world outside that storyline that you want to be interested in, perhaps hearing future story, or Star Wars, for example. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows the Skywalker story, but what about this character over here? What about they could be royalty from a different faction on a different country or something? What's happening with their story? So the ways in which it could expand, elsewhere in the future.
Damn it! Okay, it's pretty close.
Yeah, because to me, what you've created here indicates that there is a far bigger world out there that is waiting to have its story told.
Well, I'm happy that you're saying that because we did put a lot of effort on that. Me personally, I mean, let me put it this way: I still play World of Warcraft. So who does that? Either people who really like the game or people who are like really invested in the story. I'm pretty much on the second camp, right? Like I grew up playing Warcraft and I keep playing that just because I love that world.
Like the world and like the lore.
Yeah, I'm a huge nerd. I actually love anything that has really deep lore, and I mean, as long as it has enough ingredients for me to like. But I'm a huge nerd of that. And actually, any game we do, I mean, I cannot see us making. Let me actually change here a little bit what I'm saying. With this game, we try to avoid this because this is one trap that we fell on the first game. That we were like, oh, this is like an insane world. Like we had like I'm not fucking joking. Like probably like 100 documents of lore that I wrote and one of my friends because we are like huge lore nerds. And with this game, we said no, let's make something simple, more action oriented. Let's not develop the world so much, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, 4 years, I released a cinematic with the character being a pirate when the game is a World War II game. So we didn't do that, right? But what I can say is that the reason we didn't do it is because I just got to realization, okay, this is what me and my friends want to do. This is the sort of experience we want to build. Want to build experience that even if gameplay-wise they are not super deep, they do have a lot of love and effort put on them in terms of like the world, the lore, the characters. Even if that doesn't add value to you directly, like when you're playing, the gameplay loop.
Yeah. Would you?
In the spirit of that kind of the world being bigger, is there anything bigger in terms of like what's on screen in terms of like bosses or anything like that? Or are you going to go that route? Are you going to kind of keep it more like kind of the horizontal playing field with the infantry, you know, from the bad guys, more or less?
So I'm just one. So the answer is yes. I'm just like meditating if I should. Okay, let me picture. You know what? Because life is short, and who knows if we get to finish this game. So I'm gonna give you like, yeah, I'm gonna give you a quick glimpse of like a story beat on the game, right? So these Nazis you're fighting, they are called Fenrir. They are like a paranormal like subdivision of the Nazis. And the reason they exist is because, well, of course, like, I mean, Nazis were doing some like really weird shit on World War II, right? But because they were losing, they are like giving more leverage to these guys to sort of like find a way to win the war, right?
Yeah.
And what they are trying to do is to get their hands with like really, really weird, like, you know, Cthulhu mythos type shit to actually win the war. That's sort of like, or the plot of the game. Let's put it that way. Now,
so
yeah, sorry. Yeah, bring it.
Just I'll let you continue in a second, but you were just saying with I can never get the pronunciation right. Cthulhu, is it?
Cthulhu?
I said it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right.
So are you saying that there will be bosses and potentially large bosses if it's you know with that sort of mythos in this? I'm not talking like, you know, 12 arms and 16 titties or something, but, you know, are they going to be like big bosses or something?
That's so oddly specific.
There's going to be bosses, and particularly, do you remember Half-Life 1 when you get to the, I cannot remember the name of the level, but when you get to this core that you have the Hydra right in there. So I'm a huge fan of that because especially with like Lovecraftian stuff, I think it's really hard to pull off putting a huge Lovecraftian enemy and actually don't sort of break the fantasy of it, right? Because like, I mean, I don't want to be like that person, but like if you read Lovecraftian novels or you consume that sort of media, that's sort of when you break the fantasy, I guess, at some point. So it's a really hard line to sort of balance, in my opinion. But essentially, so think about this. So there's like the Nazis found this really weird thing that they think it's very powerful, but they also know that they don't know what happens when they activate it. So what if you were like a high general of the Nazi army, what would you do about that?
You'd probably still do it because you're a Nazi and you're crazy. So.
Well, yes, definitely. But or idea, or ideas that they will build a weapon strong enough that if there were a god coming out of that thing, they think they will be able to kill it.
Yeah. They're certainly arrogant enough to think that, you know, they can control whatever.
Damage control.
Yeah.
I like it.
So without saying what that is, without saying what that is, that's sort of like the scale of things that we are thinking in some parts of the game, essentially.
Deadforge, is there a way that you can like funnel them into a corridor or something and then just pick them up?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was doing that over there. I was taking them off from the roofs over here. I pretty much got them all. I died a second ago from an enemy that I didn't see, so I don't know where they were. Yeah.
What was you mentioned that Enchanted Fire has been reworked. What was that? Have I been looking at it this whole time and not realized?
Is that the alt fire?
I think Deadforge used it. Yeah, definitely. I saw him use it.
Yeah.
Well, which one would that be? Is that the alt for shotgun or the alt for this?
For both, actually. But the Obers is the one that we put more time in it, or we work with the most, I would say. It's actually quite powerful. Fun thing about that.
God, that gore, I love it, man. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, me too. I want to do so much more than that, but everything takes so much more time, so it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of shotguns in games. Like it's my usual go-to weapon. Like if I, for example, my analogy is that if I play any From Software game, my go-to build is like, give me the biggest sword, and I'm gonna hit like bonk, right? So shotguns are exactly that.
Yeah, I'm really happy you guys went with a trench gun. It's really nice.
Yeah, exactly, a trench gun. So funny thing is that, you know, I really worked on trying to make the shotgun feel as good as I could. And yeah, I think it works quite well. Like it packs a punch. It's very powerful. Of course, the gore helps sell it. But when we reworked the overs, I found myself using the overs more and more because it also packs a big punch right now. And at the beginning, I was like, is this a good thing? Because, on my scale of power, the shotgun should be like at least if you're close, should be the highest power weapon. But then I realized this is actually a great problem because it means that if the overs is really good, then we will have to work our asses off in making the rest of the one equally or similar. So yeah.
I mean, you won't hurt my feelings that the shotgun is way better than everything else.
No, definitely not. Good shotgun in an FPS game is always a good thing.
Yeah. For me, it's the rocket launcher. If it has a good rocket launcher, I'm always in. Although my favorite weapon of all time is the plasma guns. It's just something. This guy should pull out plasma. Should pull out plasma
like Doom 2016 and 3's plasma. Those are good.
I like Doom 3. Doom 3's plasma gun was the one that does it for me. Yeah, so have your guy pull out a plasma gun, then it turns out that he's actually a traveler from 10,000 years in the future and he's come back. So.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, wait, speaking, I wanted to ask earlier on, you mentioned that you've been working on this project for like 4 years from previous. Would you ever go back and redo that project? Because it sounds like you put a lot of effort into lore and stuff. So potentially it's fertile ground for a good future project if you ever return back to it.
I mean, the answer is yes. I will love to that. I mean, there's so many things that I still feel like they are like really good ideas that we never actually properly fleshed out.
Yeah.
Besides that, I'm a huge like Conan the Barbarian fan, and I mean, fuck, there's no game that feels like when you watch a Conan the Barbarian for the first time, the old Arnold movie. So just
not the Jason Momoa one.
No, fuck that. But in my opinion, the only way I see it is that if there's no game that sort of nails that feeling, someone has to do it. So why not me?
You've got your opportunity to create your own historical warrior in the Conan or Cull sort of.
Yeah, and a side note to that, have you played the Conan the Barbarian game that came out in like 360 and PS3?
Exiles?
No. It's Conan. Yeah, it came out on Xbox 360 and PS3. It's like a hack and slash, like God of War style game.
I played a bit of it.
Yeah, it has like great gore and stuff. A lot of crazy Cthulhu stuff in that as well.
Yeah, just remember one where it had his big dick out.
Yeah, that was Exile.
Yeah,
there's a lot of titties in the one I'm talking about, but that's about as far as it goes. Because you save women, and they're all with their titties out. So
yeah, isn't that how you gain health?
Yeah, actually, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, or upgrade your health or something. I think. Yeah, something like that.
I would love to see I'd love to see a game from you that was like really went back into historical Conan sort of era.
Yeah, really I mean, cool. I would love to do that as well. I mean, so there's two projects. This is fun because
shield.
I like that he's like AI helping him fight the enemies.
He's my AI buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Shield.
Come on now. Shield.
Oh,
wow. That was beautiful.
Yeah. There's very painkiller like, the walking backwards and shooting that.
Yeah, like the Painkiller Serious Sam. I'm telling you, I recently started playing Painkiller not that long ago, but this gives me like, I mean, both in it being very dark and stuff like that, but also just obviously it's less, Havoc engine exaggeration, but just the overall brutality is very Painkiller like in my opinion.
The ragdoll physics when being shot in the face reminded me a lot of Half-Life 2, and then they just go all on the floor.
Very 2000s era Havoc, stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, just as a side note to that, the best ragdoll physics I ever saw actually was in the Molino games. It was called the Chameleon, and there's a guy who's in like this factory, and he escapes, and he punches robots, and he's got the meanest right hook. It's like looks like a weedy normal guy, but as soon as he hits them, these robots go all over the place, and you're like, holy shit, that was a. It really takes you by surprise how mean this right hook is. Yeah. So you were saying?
Yeah, just one thing this is like an interesting learning, I guess, from like since we released the demo to now. And if for anyone that did play the demo back then when we released it, it was really rough. Of course, that wasn't the intention, right? Like, there's reason for that. I mean, I can tell them like there's nothing to hide. Essentially, we got invited to Realm Steep. I think that was 2020. Yeah, 2022, I believe. 22. And we had like we were like still far away from the point. Like, we were happy with the demo. Like we are barely. Well, I wouldn't say better. We are quite happy right now, but there's still a lot of things we want to improve in the game, right? But back then, like, it was really, really rough. Now, the interesting thing, one of the things that when we first released the demo, it didn't have as many combat encounters, and actually, I think it was like probably like 30% smaller, like in length, and it was more about like the tone, the ambient, exploring the trenches. There wasn't a lot to there. We didn't have a lot to do there, so that wasn't that fun, I guess. But a lot of the people, one of my, I don't know if fears, but like concerns, I will say, is that because we are living in a time where like shooters are going faster and faster and faster, and people really like that. This is like completely opposite. I mean, this is not like Armed Assault or anything. I don't like that game actually, but it's trying to pull off the speed a little bit. It's like slow it down. It's more about exploration, about details and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely more of like that, like we were saying before, like the 360 generation. It's like it has its moments of being fast, but it's also it has its moments of slow. There's a lot more like kind of thinking about your movement and where you're going and stuff like that.
It was the Realms Deep trailer that really caught my eye because I loved the comic book sort of cutscenes that you had with it. I thought that was very nice storytelling. It reminds me a lot of there's a sci-fi game that I love. It's kind of middle of the road, but it has a special place in my heart, and it's called Hard Reset. And that
I still need to play that one.
Yeah, I love it. It's a very quiet game. There's not much music in it.
That was fucking Wild Hog, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So when you're in this wonderful cyberpunk world, it's the everything that you hear, the ambience all around you, from like what you were saying earlier on. It creates that world around you, and that's why it has that kind of place in my heart, because it makes me feel like I'm standing physically in that world.
Yeah.
And but yeah, when I saw the cutscenes, immediately I was like, "Oh man, they ripped that dude's arm off. I like this." So I was much into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy crap! That's a lot.
For that cinematic, two things. So first, big shout out to Juancho, or concept artist. He worked with another friend called El Vasco to actually make that. So first, big shout out to him for that. Also, we are huge comic nerds. Like, actually, one of the biggest reference to this is not a game. It's like Hellboy. I'm a huge Hellboy fan. Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking.
Wait a minute, I want to see Hellboy and be like, they already did that. By the way,
yeah. I was gonna say, when you said the more supernatural Nazis, the first thing that came to mind was Hellboy. As soon as you said that,
totally. Just let's enumerate it: World War II, Nazis, occultism, Cthulhu mythos, a guy with a big arm. That's it. Like, you got everything, right? Like,
yeah, basically first-person Hellboy.
Yeah. Oh fuck! That's actually, I should have thought about that. I should have said it's just first-person Hellboy.
There you go. That's all you need. That's the tagline.
Thank you. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, of course.
Now, yeah, that's why like we have that. And we are like huge comic nerds, so we would love to like maybe do comics one day or something, because there's more to explore, and we want to keep pushing those cinematics and that sort of thing in the game. We actually we're interested in trying not just like cinematics, but like say maybe add some elements of that in the game. Like, for example, maybe, I don't know, like a small thing that you see, that sort of like, it's actually to the comic style. But, it's a fine line that's hard to balance because, well, the game is more, perhaps a little bit more realistic looking when it's 3D.
Yeah. I think this would
see or something like that, maybe kind of
cheated. Yeah.
Cult crosses me as something that lends itself well to other mediums. Like you could do graphic novels on this, animated movies on it, that sort of thing, and it would lend itself quite well to that. It's a shame.
Yeah, sorry.
I was saying it's a shame that it's not the 1990s and we had the big box PC ones. There could be a little tiny little graphic novel in the box that you could read. 10 pages long or something.
Whatever happens, we are doing definitely a Art of Cult like art book, because there's so much cool stuff that's being worked on. I was gonna say, as a fun fact, do you know who was one of the first references for Lazar as a character? Let's see. Let me give you a tip, and let's see if you get it. It wasn't an actor; it was a musician, and it's quite old. Like it's said already.
Frank Zappa.
Oh, fuck yeah, you got it. You need that. Oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I thought the hair. Yeah,
I'm a huge Zappa fan. That's why.
Yeah.
So a funny story. He was talking about, like, they were talking about how seeing trailers. I never saw the trailer for this game, and so I've heard people talk about it and stuff like that, but I never really saw a whole lot on it until, it's been a little while back now, but for the longest time, for some reason, because of the V in it, not knowing that it was a U, technically, I thought that it was related to Hrot for some reason. The fact that I was pronouncing it as KVLT, and and then it didn't really help that then I would later go on to find what's that other game, Kvark or whatever, which is kind of like a Half-Life. Yeah, and.
Another fun fact. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, that was it. Yeah, you're good.
Another fun fact is that the character is Serbian, right? Like, so Lazar is from Serbia, and the reason it's from Serbia is that we wanted to intentionally avoid having your typical in USA soldier saving the war, which is the most common thing in like any World War II game, essentially.
Right.
So we made it Serbian because we say, okay, we like pick some nationality that made sense for like historically speaking, and we say, okay, let's go for Serbian. And a lot of considering that the game is it's just an indie game that not a lot of people know about it. We got I don't know 5 or 6 messages from people saying, hey, I'm from Serbia. It's the first time I'm seeing a main character and it was like, oh, that's fucking cool, because we choose that, but we didn't thought of Serbian people actually saying
right,
being excited about it, and that's great. Just more representation in general.
And there's also no, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rob. What were you gonna say?
I was saying, usually when I see a British person on the screen, they're either an asshole or a villain. So that's kind of the extent of what we get.
I was gonna ask. Yeah, other than James Bond. James Bond's a good one. I was gonna ask. Your Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it as, says that you were involved with Sumo Digital to some degree.
I work for Sumo Digital right now. Yeah.
Currently, okay.
Yep.
Okay. What games have you worked on with them?
I cannot say.
Sorry. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. No, it's okay. The only thing I can tell you is that hopefully closer to the maybe half of the year or end of the year, I don't know. I don't even know it. I might be able to say it. But it's a game that's totally very different to Cult, but it has some resemblance in terms of genre and that kind of stuff. That's all I can say.
So you haven't been with them for a very long time then?
No, 2 years now, actually. I mean, it is a long time, but if you think about AAA game development, that's just pre-production.
Yeah, or in terms of their suite of games and stuff. That's Gotcha. Okay.
Would you prefer to stay as indie forever, or would you ever join an EA or Xbox or something?
You mean In what sense? Sorry, like
as a developer, would you prefer to be an indie developer for the rest of your life, or would you look to go and work for a
so much for
larger...
Sumo Digital, which is pretty big. So
So first of all, Sumo Digital and like, I mean, they are paying me a salary, of course, each month. So I'm not saying this because of that, but like they are genuinely really good, like really good. I can tell you that
they're a very cool studio as well. I like them.
They are, and let me tell you something. So after the fucked up of a year we had in the industry, right? They are one of the very few studios I know that hasn't laid off anyone. I can even tell you, like directly, the CEO sent them email saying, "Hey guys, we are not laying off anyone."
That's a good thing to hear.
So shout out to them about that, and it's important that people know, because I mean, I completely get it that from a player-facing maybe side of things, that might not be a reason to like a studio, but just from a human level, like, and seeing how fucked up the industry is right now, I think it's something that's worth mentioning. So shout out for that. Now, coming back to your answer, I would love to just do my stuff because, well, you know, it's the best. Like, there's nothing better than doing your stuff, I think. And when I mean your stuff, by the way, I don't mean, ooh, look at that lad. When I mean your stuff,
they're not supposed to be in there.
This is actually this sort of fucked up. The idea is that you will get in there, the door will close, and they will try to kill you.
Yeah, I remember that. But what's weird is, okay, so here's the funny thing is, I actually had that the first time I went through. These doors didn't open at all.
Yeah, I don't think that you can open them, but they shouldn't be moving. But we probably fucked it up at some point. We are doing AI changes, so
it's all good. I mean, you're getting a play tester here.
Exactly. No, I definitely
in real time. I was gonna say, is it challenging to work on an indie team making an indie shooter as well as working on a more closer to AAA style game with Sumo Digital? Is it challenging to like do both at the same time?
I mean, it's just
two studios
from a purely
holy shit.
From a purely like amount of time, it is like, I can tell you something.
I don't have any energy, Robert, so I can't shield up.
Okay.
So yeah, just like it does take a lot of energy, right? Like just because essentially I'm sitting here, like right next to there is like my Sumo computer where I do my work. So literally I get up from there, do stuff, and then at some point in like after work, come here and work on my own stuff. So just from that perspective, it does, you get tired, right? Like I mean, to a point where I don't play as many PC games. I was always a PC gamer, and I don't play as many PC games right now because I'm just tired of like being in front of a computer. Like just going to there and playing PS5.
I was curious about that because when I was talking, well, it's kind of a spoiler to say that. That's okay. I'll say it anyway. I was recently talking with some people over at Broadside Games who made Bears in Space, and one of the guys who worked on the art for that game is also a developer with the team that made the Forgotten City. And he like actively works with that team on whatever they're working on, and also has been like for the last 7 years working with them on like the other two guys on that game on Bears in Space. And I didn't get around to asking him that question, so I was very curious after two people back to back that are both working at bigger studios and also smaller studios. So
the thing I will say is that they are, I don't know how obvious that it's from outside, but it's a very different type of job. It's very, very, very different. So you're still making games, but it's completely different scale. So the project I'm currently working, it's the biggest I ever worked at and the most challenging, definitely, at work, right? And it's very different, right? It's very different because the scale is so big that you just make small bits of it, and like you get super deep on that. And personally, I do prefer the indie development. Actually, I'm gonna say something, and this might be a hot take for some people, but I think after the 2000s, at some point, the industry sort of fucked up the way we are making games, because right now
Oh,
it's very
100%.
hard. Like it's very, very hard. And the reason we like it, I mean, there's several reasons, right? Like from investment, amount of people having a say, but like I think the perfect balance, not in terms of like life work balance, because the industry has been bad for a long time, right? In that sense, still is.
They made Doom with the discs, so.
Yeah, but like in terms of just like creative output and being able to have like most people having a say on what they do, I think at some point we fucked up, because right now it's like the AAA industry is quite hard to work in that sense. Like if you want to have like a big say on how you do things, like in terms of what gets in the game, that's not what you do for AAA for the most part. I mean, it depends on what you are, right? Like maybe if you're like in a lead role or like something like that, but if you're just like, you know, even if you have a lot of experience and you're really good at what you do, it's still you like everything gets scrutinized a lot. Right?
Well, it's very corporatized, of course, now, isn't it? It's
yeah.
Well, it always was, but when you look at a company like EA, what they are now compared to they were back in like the 16-bit era or something, they were almost an indie company then as well. Now everything needs a meeting to have a meeting to get signed off, so you can sign off something else.
It gets crazy.
I know Deadforge and Medium have their day jobs. I run my own company outside of here as well, so empathize with you. You know, once you worked a shift at your job, you kind of really, as much as you want to play games, you're like, can I just veg out today and not do it? You know?
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm sure, like you feel it. I mean, because you know, probably more so than me or Medium or even Mugu. I mean, it might be because you fought back and forth. Your computer's doing the different things from different studios. But I mean, you sitting there running your own little business, but you also it's like you're running it from your home. So like that's also where your home life is. That's where you're doing other things. So it's like I'm sure it gets kind of like mentally draining. And I'm sure like working for two studios gets mentally draining. There's all like these different layers and like factors to things that people just don't think about when they
going for a walk in the park is blissful now because it gets you out of the house. So it's just being stuck there. So we're approaching that time. So does anyone have any final questions that they want to ask?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mugu, I know I learned this from a industry interview with Indie Game International. They did this thing where they would have whoever was on ask the next guest a question. It can be generic or specific to them. So that's kind of fun to do.
It's not bad.
We got Bridge Burner from.
Oh, I know Bridge.
Robert?
Yes.
Age of Hell demo.
Not to put you on the spot. If you just like, I don't have it's fine.
That's a cool idea, actually. Good idea, Medium.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we can do that. We can say, hey.
I mean, I have more than one question for Bridge actually.
Go for it.
I mean, he's such a good dude. To be fair, like I talked with him a bit, and he's a really nice dude. So, okay. So, question for Bridge.
I'm writing this down. Give me a second.
Yeah. Let me think about it. Meanwhile,
take your time.
Yeah, seriously, take your time. I can edit it all. Around.
I do have one. So Bridge, if you have to make another game and it's not an action RPG, because we already talked about this, he wants to make an action RPG. Everyone wants to make an action RPG. But what other type of game you will do? That's it. That's my question. It's a simple one. I was actually going to ask how many hammers do you want to put in your game, because you love hammers.
What type of game?
Just drive over to the jet dragon battle in your Hummer. Get out.
Yeah.
If it's not an action RPG, remember that detail, because I know he wants to make it one.
I've made a note of it, and we shall give it to him, and then I'm sure he will come up with a question to ask our guest after that. Excellent.
Thanks so much for coming on. That was really
exactly.
Good. Yes. For sharing your insights, just kind of give us a peek behind the curtain and see what kind of cool stuff is going on.
Yeah, and it's a hell of a demo as well. I mean, we've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes or something, and it's still going. It's a chunky demo.
I was able to make it even further than where we started. So like where I started, I made it through the entire other section and then back to a little past the beginning of another section. So yeah, I mean, It's actually really, really, really fun. Like I said, that gore is a huge selling point. The shotgun is phenomenal. Yeah, no, it's good. The gameplay is great. Actually, I think, like I said, I went into it with very little knowledge prior, but when I started playing it, it started giving that 360 vibe, kind of like Painkiller and the old Wolfenstein kind of stuff and all that. And I was like, yeah, this is my kind of game. You know what I mean? Like over the last handful of years, I've really liked these games that have went back to stuff like that, whether it be like Evil West or Bears in Space or like High on Life or different games like that for different reasons. Like they're just kind of going to this point where they don't have to be, an epic, huge AAA thing to be a good game. And, more stylization is better in my opinion. Art style is huge. And I love how this one's very, very black metal, dark metal kind of stuff going on. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice,
Well,
cool.
From my end, thank you. Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. I really
Great
enjoy
having
it
you on.
actually.
Yeah.
And anytime, anytime you want to chat, I like talking shit. So yeah, anytime.
Well,
definitely would
you could
love to
talk
have you
as
on
much
again,
as
for
you
sure.
want. We would, yeah. I mean, for you to open up the conversation, saying you've
Yep.
the catchphrase and you've seen the episodes and
Yeah.
stuff. For us that that makes this podcast, the important thing is that people actually care about what we do because we care about what we do. So hearing that feedback from you, for someone to know what we do behind the scenes, like the catchphrase, that caught me off guard.
It is pretty impressive that you've seen every episode. I like that. That's really cool.
Each one, yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool when I made the post, the initial post with the promo video, and you respond with "Let's get booming," and I was like, "Yes,
Yeah, excellent.
I love it."
Thank you for watching the Quad Damage podcast. We'd like to thank our guest, El Mugu, for joining us for a playthrough of his game, Cult. It has a demo currently out now, available on Steam. Is the demo out just on Steam, or is it on other platforms as well?
It's on Steam and also itch.io, in case you have personal problems with Game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, excellent. So yes, it's definitely downloaded. We've got nothing but positive things to say about it. Deadforge, where can the audience find you?
Of course, you can find me on Twitter/X at Lord of the RPG, my old handle. And of course, you can find me on YouTube at Deadforge. And that's pretty much the extent of my stuff. I do have a Patreon under Deadforge as well. If you want to check that out anytime, that's cool. Cool.
Medium, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at the old YouTubes at High Functioning Medium, or you can find me at X Twitter, EX-Twitter. At High Medium.
Excellent. So I have a dog that's on my lap right now trying to get my attention. HyperVerse can be found on Twitter or StrokeX, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I think everywhere basically, but Snapchat. Is Snapchat even a thing anymore? Yeah. But you can find HyperVerse there now then. And so
of course, where can we find you, El Mugu?
Yes, this is what I was gonna.
Right, so you can find me on Twitter at, I think it's Evil Guinea Mugu. I think. I don't know. I don't check it. I mean, I use Twitter a lot, but I just don't know my handle actually.
I believe it's Evil Guinea Pig.
Oh, right. Oh, that's the one for the studio. So yeah, you can find Evil Guinea Pig stuff, like all the official stuff, at Evil Guinea Pig on Twitter.
Yeah, I think yours is Evil Guinea Mugu.
Yeah. That's probably it. I think
that's it.
Yeah, fuck Elon Musk. You can find me on Twitter at Evil Guinea Mugu, Evil Guinea Pig for my official stuff on the studio.
Yeah.
And there's also the Evil Guinea Pig channel on YouTube. I don't think I have a personal account, but I probably have like just metal shows videos. So don't look for that. Probably shit.
Don't look for that. Also, before we go, Robert, I wanted to point out, I noticed your white tiger there in the background. Are you trying to be like Mike Tyson? Is that what's going on there?
No, I just think that it's so awesome that every time I'm playing the game, I point this way because I got to look at my monitor. But if I'm not playing the game and I just kind of shift it this way, I can get Bruce in there.
There you go.
I do it on purpose because I'm on this side of the screen. He's on that side of the screen.
It works.
Because like staring at my
basically what I was trying to do with the background for quad damage.
Yeah. It's I do like that though. I have no idea.
I wish it didn't turn it though, because it's supposed to be on the other side where it's possibly to be read like in the right way, but it's backwards. So when it goes to showing it on Discord, it turns it backwards. It flips it
mirrors.
For some reason.
Yeah,
it mirrors it. Yeah, I don't know why. Because when I do it as like a preview for myself, it does it the right way. But then as soon as I do it that way, it mirrors it. I'm like, what?
Oh. So
I couldn't get a good resolution to like do it the opposite. So
our intro is let's get booming, and the outro is keep on booming, and we failed every time to get everyone to say this all at the same time. So one day
I think that's the magic of it. I think that's the magic of it. I think let's keep booming and messing it up. I think that's the magic of let's keep booming. You know.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
Corporate.
Yeah, I was going to say that's all for today, folks. I got it wrong even just saying it, and I'm looking at the script.
I love it.
Do it like that. Do it like that. It's just
Okay, so keep on. Yes. All right. That's all for today, folks.
Keep on booming.
Keep on booming.
You fuck it up anyway.